Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm one lamp down, so if it's a little dark, I do apologize. Today we're going to talk about the Ghislaine unsealed court documents. Yes, I'm not new to this case. I remember back when The Smoking Gun first published the Jeffrey Epstein police reports. This was when he was first arrested back in Palm Beach. So I'm not new to all this shenanigans. I'm not new to researching these shenanigans. And just to start, I figured I would go ahead and go through Virginia Roberts Giuffre's deposition that was just unsealed. There's a lot of documents and people don't tend to like to read them. They like to have a talking head go ahead and summarize everything for them. And usually they'll pick the most salacious thing to tell you, and or the biggest pull quote or whatever. And I thought, I'll go ahead as, in a paralegal mindset and tell you what I find interesting from Virginia's deposition. So this deposition is from the September 2015 federal court case of Virginia Roberts Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell. It's regarding the defamation case, and it was in New York federal court. The court had 167 documents that were filed under seal. That means they weren't made public. And some of these documents have been lifted. They have been released, yet still redacted, many of them, meaning certain names are blacked out and the like. In the unsealing order, I'm going to read you the judge's caveat. So I think that's a good way to start this. Judge Presker says, "We urge the media to exercise restraint in covering potentially defamatory allegations, and we caution the public to read such accounts with discernment." And that is what I want to give you a caveat, that this video is just my opinions, and it's also my review of the documents that are actually in a court file. These are what people said. This is what they said under oath. This is what Virginia said under oath. Does that mean that Virginia is a saint? No. Does that mean that every single thing that she ever said in the whole, in her whole life or in this case is 100% accurate? Not necessarily. I believe Virginia. Okay? In the whole scheme of things, I believe Virginia. But we are going to go ahead and talk about her deposition that she gave. The deposition is document 1090-32. It's attachment 32 to document 1090. The deposition occurred on May 3rd, 2016. So I think it was only 4 years ago. Brad Edwards was representing Virginia Giuffre, and Sigrid Macaulay, also from Boys Schiller, was there representing, or was there, I think she was there telephonically, but they're representing Virginia. And Laura Menninger was representing Maxwell, and that's from the firm of Hadd Morgan and Foreman. So just to give you an idea of the players, usually in a deposition, in a usual deposition, y'all, you have a deposition date, you come with your attorney. The attorney's allowed a long leeway. Sometimes they call it a fishing expedition. They can ask you things that wouldn't necessarily be something that would come out in court. So they can kind of get picky and poke into your business and ask you things, and you have your attorney there when he says, "Hey, you're getting out of bounds." So here's the situation. Virginia alleges she's been sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and also by Ghislaine Maxwell, right? She's alleged that she even had sex with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey and even other underage people. All right, so she had alleged this. Ghislaine allegedly had turned around and called Virginia a liar. So then Virginia turns around and slaps a defamation lawsuit on her, like as you would do. Right? If you are a sex trafficked person that's finally come out and finally told your truth, and someone calls you a liar and you have proof that you're not a liar, you have, the right to sue her back. So that's where we're starting. In my opinion, This was Ghislaine's downfall, to call Virginia a liar in public. I mean, I'm going to say she didn't say liar, paraphrasing, to even say she told untruths or misrepresented the truth or whatever fancy way you want to pull out the source and call her a liar, was not good, because once any kind of defamation came out, then you have the right to depose people. Okay? And then Ghislaine gets deposed. But I have not seen that deposition yet, but I will go to that. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Going through this deposition was painful. There are pages and pages of questions and objections, okay? And I'm accustomed to reading this stuff. See, because Virginia had previously stated she worked at Mar-a-Lago. All right, in the summer of 1999 is what she said. Turns out it was the summer of 2000. Oh my God, you guys, this makes her the biggest liar known to mankind, right? As a defense attorney, you want to point out the persons, the witnesses, every single discrepancy and make it into some huge to-do, right? To make it into some big thing. She's a damn liar. She said she worked at Mar-a-Lago in the summer of 1999, but it was really the summer of 2000. Okay, she's a child, by the way. Most people don't keep their resumes ready to pull forth at any time. Let me tell you something. Another caveat. I could give one wet fart about politics, guys. So if you want to start talking about politics, Bill Clinton this and Donald Trump that, other than the facts of this case in the comments, I'll let it ride for a little while, but I'll delete it. Because here's what I think. Left wing, right wing, it's the same damn bird, folks. And let me make another analogy for you. Let's say you have termites in your house. You live in Florida, you have termites, you have a wooden house, right? And you have, it's also got concrete construction. You got wooden studs. And you've got subterranean termites and you've got the other kind of termites. And you decide the subterranean termites are the bad guys, so you go ahead and only deal with those. You are never going to get rid of it. A house divided against itself can't stand. As a person who looked at the Black Book in detail and researched it and researched the names, went through the Wayback Machine, okay? As someone who looked at the flight logs, figured out who the real people were, because whoever did the flight logs sounded out people's names, okay? I went and researched that. I spent a solid month on the flight logs, figuring out who was who and who the abbreviation stood for, okay? Having said that, I know there's Democrats and there's Republicans and there's all kinds of folks on those flight logs and in that Black Book, okay? It's not one party versus the other. So if you want to think that, then you're playing team politics. You're only using this in order to further a political agenda. This is way bigger than that, in my opinion. All right, so I'm going off on a side tangent. I just want to say that there are people in these documents, and that will be mentioned, who are politicians. There are many that are not politicians, but there are of every make, manner, and stripe. And if you want to sit there and say, well, but Trump, or well, but Bill, you know what? They all did it, guys. Face it. You're going to have to come to Jesus and face they all did it. There's even someone that I highly admire that was there, okay? And that's just something you have to come to terms with and decide. And if you've never been disappointed in your life in someone and had to decide that you're not going to support them anymore, then that good for you. But guess what, guys? This thing is a dirty, in my mind, operation. So, okay, sorry, I ran off. Let's get back to it. So, the reason I bring this up is because Mar-a-Lago was little Virginia's first job. Yeah, that was her first real job. I'm taking all this from the deposition. I'm paraphrasing it for you. Mar-a-Lago was Virginia's first real job. She worked in the spa, the locker room. Her duties were making tea, keeping the bathrooms nice, and folding the toilet paper into the little triangles. Yeah. She kept the sinks clean. She folded the towels. Her dad got her the job. Okay? Her dad worked at Mar-a-Lago, and her dad got her the job. So she was essentially a locker room assistant in the spa area. And 66 pages into this darn deposition, 66 torturous pages, we're going back and forth in this deposition about, because Virginia had thought that she'd met Maxwell in the summer of 1999. And she really turns out, once she looked at her work records from Mar-a-Lago, that she met Maxwell in the summer of 2000. And she discovered this fact by looking at her work employment records. All right? So let's clear that up. You spend 66 pages with the defense attorneys quizzing her and asking her all kinds of questions to make her look like a liar because she screwed up on the date. But let me get you, here's the rub. She was still a minor in summer of 2000. So it really doesn't matter if she seemed like she was 15 and she was 16. Or she, like, you know what I mean? Or she seemed like she was 16 and she was 17. She was still a minor according to Florida law. So it really doesn't matter, but you want to make her look like a liar. Okay, I get it. You're defending Ghislaine. I get it. You want to call out every inconsistency. And I wouldn't say intimidate the witness, but one could say intimidate the witness. So she misrepresented a date on a damn job resume as well. Okay, that's another thing we'll go through. Reams of pages talking about how little Virginia, once she finally got out of this, what she alleges is a sex trafficking ring, she decides she's living in Australia and she wants to have a real job. Wouldn't you? So she pumps up her resume. She doesn't say I was sex trafficked for all these dates. Didn't have a job, don't know how to do anything. No. So she's grilled. I mean, good and grilled about why in the world would you do that. Now let me say one thing. I've never lied on a resume that I'm aware of. Now, could I have gotten a month wrong on it? Sure. As far as I know, I've never lied on a resume because I'm overqualified for most of the dang jobs I go for. I have too many degrees. I'm one of those people that like school too much. You know what I'm saying? And so I have tons and tons of freaking schooling and stuff. But if you were going for a government job or working for a job of, like, for a police department or something, I can understand how. Do not lie on your resume, folks. Don't do it. If you want to be a doctor, do not lie on your resume. But something silly like this, I mean, it's understandable why she lied on the resume, in my opinion. So she's really grilled on this, and this is what she says. I didn't feel that I could go to an employer and tell them that I had held, like one job in the last 10 to 12 years. And before that, I was trafficked for the purpose of sex. Okay? So, this is the deposition. So, dirty, naughty Virginia lied on her resume. She lied on her resume and she got the date wrong when she worked at Mar-a-Lago and when Ghislaine came and met her at Mar-a-Lago and spirited her away lured her away, allegedly. She was still underage. Didn't matter. But anyway, so she met them when she was 16 and not 15. Okay, so she rode to work with her father to Mar-a-Lago, and she's sitting there reading a book about massage therapy when she was approached, allegedly, by Madam Maxwell, like calling her Ghislaine. If you want to call her Ghislaine and be really petty, go ahead. But it's Ghislaine Maxwell, and she allegedly told Virginia that she was looking for someone for a traveling masseuse. So she sees Virginia sitting there reading this book on massage, and she starts querying Virginia, and Virginia says, well, I don't have any accreditations at all in that. In fact, I think she says this is the first book I've ever read. I mean, your heart wants to break for the little girl that was, if that's true. And Ghislaine was basically, according to this deposition, she said, we can train you. So, we can train you. You'll travel. You'll make good money. You'll finally get accredited one day. So Virginia's dad takes her to Epstein's house at El Brillo Way in Palm Beach for an interview. God, I mean, it's sad. It really is sad. It's sad because I'll tell you more why it's sad. And Ghislaine allegedly told her father that she would look after Virginia and get her a ride home. So he drops her off, little 16-year-old Virginia, at this pedophile's home. Let's just skip to right after. After she goes home, she showers, she goes back to work the next day after she has her interview, I don't know if YouTube will pull the pull this video if I get into the gory details right off the get-go, so let's just skip. We all know what happened, And if I need to bring it up, I will. So about exactly the sex acts. So one tactic in a deposition is to keep the witness off their game. It's not like a police interrogation in the sense of where commonly they'll say, okay, you woke up and this happened and this happened and this happened, and you go in order and then you ask them that same thing in different questions over and over and over to get like a timeline. In a deposition, many times attorneys will ask you about something that happened last week, and then they'll take you back to the first day, then they'll take you back to the middle of the time, and then they'll go back, and you're really like off your game. They'll keep you on your back foot. So now that we've discovered that Virginia was incorrect on the date that she worked at Mar-a-Lago, and that when she was in Australia years later trying to work a real job, she had fluffed up her resume, and didn't put that she was a sex worker on it. Now we're going to talk about, and that how she began her job there is because her dad brought her there to try to get her a job, a starter job. And how she first met Ghislaine. Now they want to dive into asking her about the sex acts and whether the alleged sex acts, should I say, and whether the other girls were willing participants. And Virginia replies, quote, "I don't believe that any of the girls involved were truly willing participants doing it out of their own wanting. I believe we were all there for one purpose, and that was to keep Jeffrey and Ghislaine happy and to do our jobs, which were giving them erotic massages and keeping them pleased sexually." And so then they start asking her about force, right? Because they want to allegedly, make it look like she wasn't forced to do these things. Okay. But mind you, for half of this stuff, she's underage. Quote, question, "Do you know what the word force means?" And Virginia replies, "Force in a word like a way of coercion. There was definitely indirect threats that these people were powerful. They had a lot of contacts. They were very wealthy. They were not people you'd want to cross lines with on a bad day." She was afraid of them, allegedly. Virginia assumed, she said, that the girl she saw Ghislaine Maxwell have sex with her own eyes ranged from between 15 to 21 in age, generally, like in the different orgies and this and that, and even the ones allegedly she participated in. Okay? So the taste was, for Ghislaine, allegedly, was between 15 to 21 years of age. Where are the locations? Virginia says, in cabanas, in Jeffrey's room, orgies held outside by the pool, outdoors in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And then Virginia did talk about having to, essentially being coerced to go down on these young girls, and she noted that they didn't even speak English. So it's a Renfield situation in a way. You take someone who is a victim, a clear underage victim, and then you Renfield them. You know, a Renfield with Dracula, where Dracula, bites Renfield or possesses Renfield, and then Renfield ends up going out and getting more victims for Dracula or participating in Dracula's nefarious doings. It's like a Renfield. And so it's sad, because I also believe a lot of the co-conspirators that were unnamed, the young ones, the ones that were bought from another country, the unnamed co-conspirators allegedly were Ghislaine and some younger girls that are now older. And I understand some of those allegedly are very, in my mind, guilty, but there also is like one or two that were allegedly purchased as young women, or maybe one. And you gotta wonder, maybe after she turned of age, she's still, procured for Jeffrey, but it's almost brainwashing. But anyway, the question was about these orgies and these young girls. What languages were they speaking? And Virginia says, "I'm not too sure. It could have been Russian. It could have been Czech." And then the question was, "What other locations did you participate in sexual contact with Ghislaine Maxwell other than the island?" Okay? And she says, "Well, the list keeps going on. Everywhere." Keep that in mind. So, okay, you had the Florida. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you off off the record. You had the Florida location in Palm Beach, right? Where a lot of this all kicked off. You've got Virgin Islands as a location. You've got New Mexico as a location. You might even have Paris as a location, all right? You have Manhattan as a location. You have all kinds of places that you can prosecute. All kinds of countries. And then the international travel space, okay? Because that Lolita jet flew, and Virginia has some things to say about that. So the answer, well, the list keeps going on. Everywhere. New York, Palm Beach, a foursome in the living room of the New York mansion, France, England, international travel space, planes, because he had more than one plane, by the way. He had the Lolita Express, and he also had two different planes, and I don't know if he had them all three at the same time, but he also had another plane. I did extensive research on all the flight logs that were written down, and that's paraphrasing what her answer was, but yes. So at this point in the deposition, allegedly the attorney for Ghislaine is feeling out what Virginia is going to say, or what she thinks that Maxwell did to help to procure the girls, or to try to get Virginia to procure the girls. And this is what Virginia answers to that set of questions. And she being Maxwell, and she walked up to this French girl to show me how easy it was for her to procure girls. And I wasn't very good at it. And it was part of my training was to bring in other girls. Within 5 minutes, she had her number, and that girl came over later that night to the hotel and serviced Jeffrey. Oh, gosh. It's also stated in the deposition by Virginia that within 6 weeks of meeting her, 6 weeks of meeting this 16-year-old girl, Jeffrey Epstein was allegedly taking Virginia Roberts Giuffre to New York. You know what, guys? You're not allowed to take a minor over state lines for the purpose of any kind of sex trafficking either. All right, so they asked questions about Virginia Roberts Giuffre being molested as a child. Okay, let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. When you are representing someone, you're trying to zealously represent your client. And they are trying their best, in my opinion, on behalf of Ghislaine. They're trying their best to make Virginia look like a damn liar, okay? To make her look like she doesn't have her dates right, even though the Mar-a-Lago employment records could be proven, right? That she buttered up a resume, but then the perfect excuse is there in my mind. Who wants to say they were a sex slave for X amount of years and then had to recover from it? All right, allegedly. So what they also want to do, this is hard, is to bring up any kind of previous abuse she had to make her look like, I don't know, just to bring it up. I in my mind, legally, it's not important if Virginia Roberts Giuffre was molested as a child, a young child, before Jeffrey got on the scene. It's not important to whether Ghislaine did what she did or not. But depositions are fishing expeditions. They are allowed to ask, and she is supposed to answer. So here we go, folks. Virginia Roberts Giuffre was running away before she met Jeffrey because she had been molested at the age of 11. Her parents then sent her to live in California for a while, like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, allegedly, because someone they knew had been molesting her. That's sad. So she comes back and she's living with her parents again and getting her life back on track. And daddy gets her a job, allegedly, at Mar-a-Lago. And then she's immediately set upon. And I want to say for the record, statistically, once you've been abused and molested, the chances of it happening to you again are very high. It's like blood in the water with sharks. It's sad. I don't want to cry. So anyway, my opinion is not only did Jeffrey Epstein use Virginia Roberts Giuffre's prior molestation, and maybe in my opinion, Ghislaine Maxwell too, they used her molestation and abuse against her because she confided in them that she had been abused. So the court, by asking or implying these questions, court being through a deposition, with no relevance at all to the facts at hand. I mean, Virginia wasn't saying I was a virgin and therefore they took my virginity and then they could prove that her virginity had been taken before. Like, that would be, then I guess you could say that that's valid. But to say, you know, this dirty little girl was molested at the age of 11. Oh, God, how dirty are you gonna go? Yeah, but you can do it. You can ask the questions. You could probably even ask her if she liked it. You guys, come on. They didn't ask her if she liked it, but I'm just saying, it's just, it honestly, sometimes it makes you feel even sorrier for Virginia. And God forbid if they tried to bring that out in court. It would make Ghislaine and co. look even worse. That stuff you find out in the deposition and then you never bring it up again. That she was previously molested at age 11. Okay. So the question then goes on to whom did Ghislaine Maxwell sexually traffic you? You know, you're claiming she trafficked you. To whom? And the answer is you have to understand that Jeffrey and Ghislaine are joined at the hip by hip, okay? Because they kept trying to separate the two in the questioning. And so they both trafficked me. That's what the emphasis that Virginia wanted to keep making. They're both in this, guys. This isn't just Jeffrey. This is before Jeffrey was dead, by the way, guys. So they were asking her essentially, how did this go down with this guy, with John A. and John Doe B. and la-di-da? And here's an answer. This is what Virginia says. We're sending you a gentleman. We want you to show him a good time. I think I met Prince Andrew in 2001. And Glenn Dubin and Stephen Kaufman were, like I said, the first people I was sent out to after my training. I know, and then later on she says, I know Glenn Dubin was the first. That's what Virginia says. Don't come for me. I'm not defaming you, guys. I'm reading a deposition that's now public record. This is what Virginia says. The first time I was with Alan Dershowitz was in New York. So I wasn't actually sent to him. It actually happened at one of Jeffrey's residences. Names are getting named. Some of them are still blocked out, but names are getting named, guys. They start asking about other alleged Johns, Janes, and the like. And Virginia says, again, I'm going to tell you they, because that's how it went. They being Jeffrey and Ghislaine. They instructed me to go to George Mitchell, Jean-Luc Brunel, Bill Richardson, another prince that I don't really know his name, a guy that owns a hotel, a really large hotel chain. You can figure that one out by the flight logs and by the black book. Marvin Minsky. There was, another foreign president. I can't remember his name. He was Spanish. You gotta think, this chick's 16 years old and then 17. She's 16 and 17. She doesn't know who these people are. I mean, if she sees Bill Clinton, she would know who Bill Clinton was. She's not gonna know who freaking these people are. And again, they're not forging friendships with Virginia. Virginia is used as a sex doll. All right. So Virginia says, it's so hard to just keep naming and naming and naming. And then about this part of the deposition, the question comes out, where did you have sex with the owner of the large hotel chain in France around the time of Naomi Campbell's birthday? Oh, and by the way, on a side note, there are pictures of Naomi, Virginia, and Jeffrey, I think it is, at some party somewhere. Now, granted, they're not all standing in a line, but you can see Virginia kind of uncomfortably standing around in a group of people. Uncomfortably because she's allegedly underage in a group of all these high-flying people and doesn't know them. And where did you have sex with the owner of a large hotel chain in France around the time of Naomi Campbell's birthday? And she answers in his own cabana townhouse thing. It was part of a hotel. All right, so then they go back, in my opinion, to trying to make her look like a lying liar who lies. And they talk about how she had a journal. And she had kept a journal, and then when she met her husband, allegedly in Australia, and met her husband and moved to Australia and started having kids and stuff, she decided that she just didn't need that journal. The journal was dragging her down, or I'm paraphrasing. So she burned her journal when she met and married her husband, and they tried to make a lot of hash about the burning of the journal. Like it was some kind of evidence in a trial that she was trying to rid herself of. It was just allegedly just a random journal, okay? And so Virginia tries to defend herself. It's not like somebody asked for her journal and she went and burned it in the backyard, you know. And she says, this wasn't anything that was public document. It was my own private journal, and I didn't want it anymore, so we burned it. You know? Oh, they even go so far, bless their hearts. This is why some attorneys make like $400 to $500 an hour to do depositions and stuff. And bless your hearts, because you're even asking if she used wood versus charcoal when she was burning the journal. And like if other people saw the fire, if other neighbors saw the fire. Like, come on, guys. Why the F are you asking if she admitted she burned the journal, if she used wood versus charcoal? Are you kidding me? What kind of socks did you have on when you burned your journal? This means nothing. You're either just trying to be annoying, trying to intimidate her, trying to, what are you asking that for? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, some of the stuff you're reading, you're like, okay, all right, earn that $500 an hour, baby, earn it. All right, so anyway, Virginia said she only confided to her parents about all the sex trafficking sometime after she had her children, and that she just basically told them, I just wasn't massaging these people. I just wasn't massaging them. And then we go on and on and on to the point I fell asleep twice reading the end of this deposition, because they were just going on and on and on, because she had written some things that she maybe wanted to write a book. And they just asked her a bunch of questions about the emails going back and forth about the book. And it didn't, to me, add anything to anything. It wasn't, in this deposition, it didn't add anything to further the discussion, in my opinion. Other than they were trying to make her look like a liar about something, about someone who knew something on an email. It didn't make any sense to me, so I can't add anything else to it. But this deposition that was unsealed is what she said. Virginia Roberts Giuffre said under oath on May 3rd, 2016. I'm sure that wasn't the first deposition she ever gave regarding this stuff, but it is the one that she gave in Virginia Roberts Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell. So I hope this gives you a little bit more information rather than just the simple salacious details that the mainstream news media tend to give you. Maybe give you a little bit more of an idea of this allegedly really young girl that, had had a tough upbringing, had been molested, had started running away, and then she went to another place and got her stability, got away obviously from who molested her, and then came back and was living with her parents again. And she was old enough to get a job, and daddy working at Mar-a-Lago decides to get her a job, and then she's immediately poached allegedly by Madam Maxwell to work for Epstein with the promises of becoming a trained masseuse. And yes, that's where the sex slave came from. Mar-a-Lago. Let that sink in, guys. Anyway, I hope you have an excellent day, and I'm sorry to have rambled on a little too much, but I'm not going to say anything that's going to get me in any kind of legal jeopardy, that's for sure. I don't have any use for that. So I hope you have an excellent day and stay safe, stay masked, stay inside, and be better today than you were yesterday. Okay, take care. Bye.